Welcome back to Here's the Thing with Scott Leffler and Drew McGrath. We just heard songs by Bass Reeves. That was The Times They Are A-Changin' and the Jazz Conception Project with Pacifico. A couple of fun tunes here on All Western New York Radio. Now, the first part of our show today, we talked about random things, and we might continue with a few random things, but I think mostly we're going to talk about some sports stuff because Drew brought some things that he wanted to talk about that are sports-related, because Drew is a sports guy. And while he is adept at talking about things that aren't sports, he really shines when we do the sports ball. Now, Drew, I know that throughout the course of the week, we will send each other memes and links to things that we find fun and interesting.
Or just completely stupid.
Or completely stupid. You actually sent me a thing the other day, and I don't know if you did this on purpose, about building a deck. Was that on purpose?
No, it was kind of like a mockery of the deck. As I mentioned, it was funny when I got in the car today. You had the carpet, and that was kind of like okay, yeah. All
right, so for those of you outside of this inside joke, if you will, I got married a month ago. Tomorrow will be 1 month, and we had planned on having a concrete patio poured in plenty of time for the wedding, but then the government got involved. The city didn't approve our concrete because it exceeded the size allowable for the lot and blah. Long story short...
Yeah, we touched on this on a previous episode.
Right. Long story short, we had to have a temporary deck built that was just plywood with putting green grass, like putt grass on it, and it was kind of ghetto, but it worked. And 912 square feet of putting green carpet at 50 cents a square foot, so it's $466 worth of putting green carpet that we used one day, and then my wife sold some of it on Facebook Marketplace for a deep discount. And the rest of it is in my back seat because my youngest daughter wanted it for, I don't know why. But, so then Drew had sent me this thing about, how to build a deck. And I was like, all right, I don't know if this was on purpose or what. And the reason I say that is because I'll get things. People send me TikToks. Are you on TikTok?
No.
So I'm on TikTok, but I don't ever post anything. I scroll through it every once in a while. But for the most part, it annoys me. But Jeanette, my wife, will send me things on TikTok all the time, except that she'll send me a thing, and I'll click on the link, but it won't give me the link that I clicked on, so I get a random thing, and I'm like, why did she send me this random thing? And then I'll have to go back and be like, oh, this is what she meant to send me. But TikTok will just give me a random thing first of all. So I didn't know if that was what happened to you, was you meant to send me a story about Shedeur Sanders, and instead I got this thing about a deck. But no. So throughout the course of the week, Drew and I will text each other, aside from general hatred towards each other, memes and other things. And I sent him this thing, and he was like, dude, I was just reading that. And it was a very, very, in my opinion, funny Facebook post from NFL Memes on Facebook, which is always good for a laugh. But this one really, really, really had me. Adam Schefter says, Cleveland Browns rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders ticketed by police for going 101 miles per hour in a 60-mile-per-hour zone. And We'll talk more about my thoughts on this, because there are genuine thoughts on this. But the joke was funny because someone then commented, that's nothing. A couple of months ago, he went 144 when he was supposed to go 25. And that, of course, is where he went in the draft,
right,
compared to where he was supposed to go in the draft.
Right.
So the joke was funny, but my real first thought, and this is a thing that I was hoping we could talk about, I feel like he went 144 because he is drama, because he's a Sanders.
Okay, so to me it was a lot of draft pundits and people that are supposedly have connections,
right,
to college coaches and stuff like that. To me, didn't want to upset him or make him mad, where now he's going to be criticizing organizations, criticizing these draft experts, things like that. So I think, to me,
why should that matter? I mean, why should members of the media suck up to the athletes?
Because he is a Rolodex of with current young players, a lot of high school players, and a lot of college players reach out to him for advice and everything like that. So he's very connected.
So you think they were afraid of getting blacklisted?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
And, I don't doubt what you're saying.
I think that's part of it.
I just don't feel like it would have worked out that way. I personally feel like Adam Schefter, for example, is a much more powerful person than Shedeur Sanders is. Now, Dion maybe...
Dion maybe... because of Dion.
Dion maybe is a different issue. But to me, look, Deion Sanders was fun to watch. But he was just drama. Drama every week, all the time. And I felt like his son, Shedeur, is going to be the same.
See, but the difference was, though, Dion was like one of the best.
I don't disagree. I disagree.
I think people and teams, organizations have a little bit more leeway with someone who has like ridiculous talent, because
and understandably so,
right? Because it gives them an opportunity to win.
Yeah, I mean that's true in any sport,
right?
And it's true in any business, really. Businesses can get away with doing ridiculous, stupid things if they put out a really good product. In a previous life, I worked at McDonald's for 5 years, and actually loved it, by the way. And one of the mantras of my boss's boss was volume hides everything. Like, we can make all sorts of stupid mistakes as long as those stupid mistakes were a fraction of what we were doing. So if we were doing amazing things, the stupid things that we did got hidden. And it's the same basic thing with this.
Right.
Is, when you are a Deion Sanders, you can get away with running your mouth and doing stupid things and, going 101 and a 60, for example, because come Sunday, everybody knows you're going to perform.
Right.
And so I'm sure that to a large degree, a lot of people thought, you know what, the Sanders kid, he's got the genes, he's going to be able to do what his dad did, but he's also got the genes and he's going to do what his dad did. And to me, the fact that he hasn't proven himself, and I realize he had a very good year at Colorado, a couple of very good years at Colorado, but, Colorado and the NFL are two very different things.
Right.
So, to me, he has not proven himself capable of doing anything, but I just assumed the drama part was true, and it's already been proven.
Yeah.
And it's something that the Browns are going to have to deal with. Now, whether or not it's going to be worth it, we'll find out.
Yeah, and with the current Browns and how their new ownership is, that is nothing compared to the whole Deshaun Watson.
Oh yeah,
Look, that's like a slap on the wrist.
Agreed. I will take Shedeur Sanders, 100 times over taking Deshaun Watson once. I wouldn't call myself a Browns fan, but I like the Browns. As someone who likes the Browns, I was very disappointed in them for that Watson deal. I was frankly disappointed in them that they took him at all.
Right, and then they made it where he was the highest paid player ever with the most guaranteed money ever. And they guaranteed every dollar of it too, and it was just like, wait, this dude was just asked to not play for the Texans for a full year.
Right.
And then the league suspended him after that for the next season for 11 games.
Right. Which is basically a full season.
He made the trade knowing that this suspension was going to happen, and you still did that.
Yeah.
On top of it, it was like it was...
Cleveland teams do Cleveland things, and they're not usually very smart. But yeah, I don't know. So Shedeur Sanders, we'll see what happens with him from here. But so far, he is who I thought he was.
Yeah. So something that popped up for me, the Hockey Hall of Fame class.
I didn't see that.
2025 was just announced.
All right.
And Alexander Mogilny has been waiting 16 years.
Yeah.
Well, it just ended. He is now officially going to be in the Hall of Fame as of 2025.
So number 9, Alexander Mogilny, one of my favorites ever. My friend Lisa's absolute favorite ever. Dude, he was just so much fun to watch.
Right.
He stepped on the ice, and the Sabres at the time were just great. But there was something special about Mogilny.
Him and pairing of him and LaFontaine.
He stepped on the ice and he knew anything was possible. If you get time, don't do it now because you're listening to the show. But later, when you're doing something else, just go on YouTube and search for Alexander Mogilny highlights. The man was something special. He should not have had to wait this long.
Yeah.
Who else is in?
It was Joe Thornton.
Deserved, without a doubt.
And Zdeno Chara.
Oh, Chara. Yeah.
So
hockey good. Look, so Chara was a big guy, and
I think they said his listed height was like 6'8".
Yeah,
and that was flat without even without skates on.
And that still might have been like underrepresented. Like he might have actually been like 6'10", and he had the skates. And then on top of that, like he wasn't a small built guy either. He was just huge, and he was powerful. But I make the joke hockey good. He wasn't just that. I mean, he had genuine ability to play.
Right.
And it's the thing that people are surprised about Josh Allen because he's was he 6'6", 240,
250.
Yeah. So he's a big guy, but he runs like a little guy.
Yeah.
And that was Chara was a big guy, but he had the maneuverability of someone much smaller,
right,
while maintaining the power of who he was. And I know he played for Boston, and
a couple other teams.
I mainly remember him from Boston, though, because the Sabres in Boston, forever rivalry, and so I hated him, but I had to respect him. He was like Crosby, for example.
Yeah.
I hate Sid Crosby. But dude, he's Sid Crosby. Like, how do you not respect him? Tom Brady, same thing. I hate Tom Brady, but like, he's Tom Brady. How do you not respect him? So just three.
It was Duncan Keith from the Blackhawks.
All right. Not nearly as familiar with him as I am with the others, but
yeah. So there was that. I
am glad to hear that Mogilny's finally getting in. Definitely.
It's just crazy though. It took 16 years. So
yeah, definitely 100% deserves it.
Wow.
All right, so hockey. I am a hockey fan. Hockey is really my number one sport. Has been for a long time. Now, it's been difficult, and when I had Mark Polenkars on, we talked about this. It's been difficult to watch the Sabres for a couple of reasons. One, they're bad. But two, it's actually difficult to find the games because the games are, for the most part, on MSG, and unless you have Spectrum, it's difficult to find MSG.
Right.
It's not on YouTube TV. It's not on Hulu Live. I think it's on like Fubo, maybe.
Yes. I think
it's available, but it's not ubiquitous.
Like I would have that issue with if I wanted to watch the Red Sox because they have
but that's an out of market team.
Right.
I should be able to watch my in market team.
Right. Yeah. So it's like I would have to go to like a certain cable outlet or something like that, or But like it's
All right. So, but my point is that it's difficult to watch hockey now.
And they're not a good team, so they're not on like ESPN or
and if you get like NHL
center ice,
you can't watch your home team.
Right.
Which is just the stupidest thing in the world. I don't understand why you would buy a sports package and then not be able to watch the team you most want to watch. And that just seems stupid to me. Now, as Bills fans, we're very lucky because
local station picks it up.
Local stations pick up the Bills games. And pretty much any of the good NFL games you're going to be able to watch on, ABC or CBS or Fox. The good games are pretty much available to just about anyone with, regular cable. I know not everybody has regular cable, but a lot of people do. And if you don't, your local bar does. However, if you like an out-of-market team,
you actually have to get the NFL Sunday Ticket.
And that's what I wanted to talk about. So the NFL Sunday Ticket has been on YouTube TV now for, I think it's their third season, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
And they raised the price again.
Of course it did.
So the NFL Sunday Ticket went to $390 for the season. And if you think about it, the NFL Sunday Ticket doesn't include a lot of things, and it's getting to be more and more things that it doesn't include, because now there's games on Netflix, and there's games on Prime, and there's games on all these other things. Those are not included in the NFL Sunday Ticket. So I had seen a thing that, like, if you wanted to watch every NFL game, you would have to subscribe for, it was like $700 worth of stuff.
Yeah, because you're right, because you got to have the Amazon Prime. You would have to have
Well, I know there are games on Netflix.
The Netflix is now the NFL Sunday Ticket. That's what.
No.
Oh no, those are the Black Friday games.
Yes.
Yeah, Black Friday and Christmas.
Yeah.
Is that for Netflix? And then so you got the NFL Sunday Ticket, and then if you don't actually have like an actual cable, then you got to have like Hulu or something like that,
right?
And then it's like, yeah. And
so, if you want to watch every game, and I'm just pulling this number out, but I feel like it was in the $700 range, and that's just not tenable,
right? And then there's the NFL Red Zone channel too,
right?
Which
is fun,
right? But then you got to pay extra for that.
That's
as
an add-on,
well. Right, and it's getting.
It's like an extra $10 a month or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so I saw this post on Reddit, and I shared it with you, and it was people talking about this and how upset they are about it. And one of the things that it mentioned, and this is something that really piqued my interest, was the NFL, particularly, but also these cable channels, or whatever, television networks, whatever you want to call them. They're really selling out their future in exchange for a revenue pop today, because a lot of these games aren't going to be viewed by younger kids, and so they're not building the sport. And what's going to happen is guys your age and my age, eventually we're going to die, and the younger people aren't going to care. And so what happens to the NFL in 20 years?
I think there's still going to be a platform where they can access like archive games and stuff like that.
But are they going to care? I don't think they're going to care. My point
to depend.
Is that,
I think once they start like having like more clips of these games going on during like live games or something like that, like reminiscent of like when Buffalo and Kansas City played in the AFC Championship game.
Right.
Like if they did so anytime Buffalo played Kansas City down the line, they like during part of the game like during instead of like a commercial or like one of those 30-second timeouts where they're still there or whatever, they can like refer back to that or something like that.
But they got to be watching the game to begin with.
Right. I think that would be the only way to be able to like have some sort of like archive in that aspect. But like you're saying, if they don't watch, then they're not going to be able to see that.
Right. The point that was made that I think is pretty credible is that they're
generating the new fan. How you get them to watch.
Right, and they're kind of pricing these new fans out, because if you are 20 something and you've got your first job, even if it's a decent job, what are the odds you're going to have a spare $700 to watch football? Pretty damn low,
right? And especially for 4 months,
right? I'm 50 years old. I consider myself relatively financially stable. I don't have a spare $700. Like, Sunday Ticket does not sound appealing to me at all. Now, part of the reason for that is because Drew and I typically go out and watch the games anyway. So why pay when I'm just going to go watch it somewhere anyway? But if I wasn't going to go watch it anyway,
right? And then what if those options of going places just starts dwindling down or disappearing?
Well, and that's the thing is that some bars have had problems with licensing because the NFL. The No Fun League likes to tell people what they can and can't do, and they're like, you can't show this. And I know when they first started showing games on Prime, for example, a couple of years ago, you and I were talking about, like, are we going to be able to watch it at this place or that place? Because
we actually had to find out places that actually had Prime to be able to watch.
Right. And so then of the places that did
And then
show it. Were they allowed to?
Right. Well, and then it was like, okay, so then, like, well, for our local team, Buffalo, I don't know about anybody else's local team or anything like that. Like, and Scott, you can attest to this. Our local stations pick up those games.
Right.
You know, so if it is on Prime,
but
like our
only because the Bills is good. Growing up, there were a lot of games we couldn't watch.
Early in the 2000s, like when we were in that funk of the 17 years and everything
there were weeks and weeks and weeks where the Bills game was not aired locally because the game didn't sell out. And I always thought that was a dumb thing.
The early 90s, they had the early to mid 90s, they still had the blackout rule.
Right. I always felt that was dumb. If the game doesn't sell out, if not enough people want to pay $50 a ticket, they won't show it at home. And it's again like, how are you building a base? You know, when the younger generation doesn't get to see the game. Now, fortunately, the Bills got better, and then the games and then they got rid of that whole blackout rule, which is something that all sports should do. No matter what sport it is you follow, in my opinion, you should be able to watch your local team for free over the air. And I know most people don't have antennas, but they're still out there. You can still go buy one at Walmart. In fact, I used to have one in the office when my office was on the other side of the building, but now that I'm on the north side of the building, the antenna doesn't do me any good. But when I was on the south side, I could get all the Buffalo TV stations. Those digital antennas are great. But doesn't do you any good if they're not airing the games.
Right.
So I think, baseball, basketball, hockey, football, you should be able to watch your home team. There should be some sort of a pact with the community that, like, hey, we are your team and you are going to see our games.
Yeah.
And look, I know it's a business and everybody's got to make money, but you can't have people. You can't turn people into fans and then not allow them to see you unless they're willing to pay out, again, $50 a ticket, another $20 to park, $10 per beer, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, no, so say if a father wants to take his kids, say he's got two kids, depending on what sport that is, you could be looking at anywhere between $100 to $200.
Oh yeah,
just for one one game, and it's like, how many people with the economy and everything, and
so let's
and then the area that some people live in, it's like we can't just be dropping that kind of money all the time.
All right, so let's say you were a 35-year-old father living in Niagara Falls with two young kids, ages 8 and 10, right? And you want to go to the game. First of all, you got to drive there. Then you got to park.
Right.
Then you got to wrangle your 8 and 10-year-old kids to get them into the game. Then you got to pay the exorbitant prices because the kids are going to want popcorn or peanuts or whatever. And aside from the price, it's simple. Dude,
and forget walking by the souvenir shop.
Doing things with kids is just a hassle.
Yeah, forget walking by the souvenir shop.
Doing things with kids is just a hassle. And so make it easy and let them watch it from home. By the way, the other day, Jeanette and I went to a graduation party down in Orchard Park, went by the stadium. It is beautiful. It is looking good.
That's what I've heard.
It is looking good. I was hoping that after the party we were going to stop and look at it a little more because she was interested. She's like, wow, that looks great. And I was like, sweet, maybe we'll be able to stop and look at it closer. No. Well, what happened was really weird. On the way there, like out of the blue, she mentions the eternal flame. And I'm like, it's right here somewhere. Literally less than 2 minutes later, we were there. We passed the sign that says Eternal Flame right here. So after the graduation party, we went to the Eternal Flame. Have you ever been? All right. So if you go to the Eternal Flame, which is in some Erie County park, I can't think of the name of it, in Orchard Park, basically. There's like 1 million steps to get down there.
Okay.
And it's cool, but it's a hike. And
is it kind of like Devil's Hole, kind of?
Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
Okay.
And then when you get down there, the flame itself is cool, but you stand there for 3 minutes, you take a picture, and then you go back up.
Takes longer to get down.
Takes forever to get up. And my knee decided that. So when I was
didn't want to work anymore.
When I was 12, I injured myself playing tennis, and every once in a while my knee's like, hey, remember when you were 12 and you were physically capable of doing things? Well, you're not anymore. And so every once in a while it just hurts for no reason. So by the time we got back up, I could barely walk. And she's like, I'll drive. And I'm like, no, I'll drive. She's like, you can barely breathe. Why don't you let me drive? So I didn't think that it was a good idea to suggest that we stop and look at the stadium. But it was nice. Maybe you and I should take a ride out sometime.
Yeah, we can definitely
check it out. Yeah.
Speaking of the stadium and the Bills, the spring training schedule came out.
I've never been. Have you ever been?
No, I've never been out to St. John Fisher. I don't know if this will be the last year because of the new stadium.
Yeah, they might start doing training camp here.
Yeah, we don't know.
Now, Jeanette was asking me, by the way, and I wasn't 100% certain of this, but once the new stadium is built, they're demolishing the old one and turning that into parking, right?
I believe that's going to be the parking lot.
All right, that would make sense.
Yeah. Because they also got the field house right there.
Right.
So that's connected to the parking lot of the old stadium.
Right.
So I think they're going to make that part of the new stadium. But yeah, so and they have the return of the blue and red game is Friday, August 1st.
All right.
So that was a big deal, I guess, because a lot of people they weren't doing that for a while.
Right.
And then people wanted to.
And it's cool because you can go. You got to get tickets, but you can go as a fan, go and watch the Bills practice. Mm-hmm. And it might be the only way you can see the Bills because the tickets, as we mentioned, are not cheap. And most of the games are sold out.
Yeah. So they have 11 open practices this year. One closed. So the open one is July 23rd, 24th, 25th, 27th, 28th, 29th, and 31st of July. Return of the blue and red game is August 1st. Then August 3rd, August 6th, and August 7th. August 4th is a practice, but it's closed to the public.
And that's the only one that's closed, right? If I remember correctly, everything was open except for one.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So, and it
kind
of works out too because it's like they're there for like a week or two in Rochester, then they're back here in Buffalo because of the preseason game and everything like that they're going to have.
But I also I personally like them being at St. John Fisher because they get to maintain and further build that Rochester fan base. Because Rochester, from All Western New York Radio's point of view, from All Western New York's point of view, Rochester is part of Western New York, but it really depends on who you ask. And so, people from Rochester don't have to necessarily be Bills fans, but most of them are. And it's good that the Bills are maintaining that relationship. I almost wouldn't want them to sever that relationship because I would be afraid that those Rochester fans might end up being Giants fans.
There was that fear when they left SUNY Fredonia.
Right.
And they decided to go to St. John Fisher.
Right.
Well, now we're alienating the Southern Tier.
Right.
So,
except Orchard Park is practically in the Southern Tier to begin with. You know what I mean?
Right. So it was like that. So that one didn't really make sense too much.
Right.
But Rochester, the drive. If you're a fan, the drive to the stadium. That's like an hour and a half.
Right. And I know a lot of people don't think of Rochester as being its own city, but it is. It's got all its own TV stations. Right. It's got its own newspapers. It's got its own economy. The gas prices are different in Rochester than they are in Buffalo. It really is its own area. And although, like I said, although we treat it here at All Western New York as part of Western New York, technically it's not. And I feel like it's a good idea to keep that relationship with them because, frankly, the Bills need the revenue if they're going to pay Josh Allen enough to win the Super Bowl.
Okay, so my question for you is...
Oh, we're doing the question already?
Yeah.
All right.
If both the Bills and the Sabres were to leave Western New York...
Okay.
Would you follow a new team, or would you just say, I'm done with it, and not? And if you were to follow a new team, who and why?
All right, so in every sport, my favorite team is the Buffalo team. Bills, Sabres, well, there's no real Buffalo baseball, so and there's no Buffalo basketball either, so I guess just Bills and Sabres.
That's why I said those two.
So... And then my second favorite team in every sport is the Washington team. So if the Bills and Sabres were to both break up with us and move away, I would probably just become a full-on Commanders and Capitals fan. The Caps are my second favorite team. I root for them against everybody but the Sabres Commanders are my second favorite team. I root for them against everybody but the Bills. And as much as I love
Washington Nationals.
Right, yeah. I've got a couple Nats hats here hanging on the wall. So the Nats are my favorite.
And then basketball, you said you care less about. So.
I really don't. So I mean,
right.
You know, I'm not really a fan of basketball at all.
Right.
But if I were to be a fan, I would probably be a Wizards fan.
Okay,
I love the city of Washington.
Okay, so now you said that. Okay, so a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Now say we got rid of.
I haven't done yet though.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So my thought of it is, you know, if those teams that we have spent our blood and money loving didn't return that love to us and moved, you know, like the Cleveland Browns moved to Baltimore, I would feel no allegiance to continue to follow that new team. Yeah. And so that's so I would definitely then gravitate towards what is currently my second team. And that's my thought process. Is, you know, I love the Bills, but if they're not going to love me back, I've had enough toxic relationships. I don't need one with a football team.
They didn't love anybody for like 17 years.
Well, and so you know, here's the thing: when the Bills, in my opinion, didn't try, because they didn't try for a long time. They just didn't. I
think they tried. It's just, but they knew that they could get away with doing certain things because of loyal
to me, that's
fan
not
base.
trying. To me, that's not trying. And the players tried to the best of their abilities, but the front office didn't try to get the players we needed to win. They didn't try to get the circumstances we needed to win. And so for a long while, I stopped watching Bills games because my thought was, if they're not going to show me love, I'm not going to show them love. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're a fair weather fan," and it's like, no, I'm not a fair weather fan, but I'm not going to put 10 times as much into a relationship as that relationship is going to put back into me. Yeah. And so that was my thought process with that. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so the second question now. Say Bills and Sabres leave.
Uh-huh.
And then we get a pro baseball team and a pro basketball team. Would you support them?
The new pro basketball team, pro baseball team?
Yes.
100%. Yeah. And here's the thing. I would probably become a basketball fan. One of the reasons I'm not a basketball fan is because, you know, we lost the Braves when I was 1 year old. I don't remember when the Braves moved.
I think it was like the 70s?
Late 70s, yeah. And I was born in 74. So, like, I never knew Buffalo basketball. Mm-hmm. And I do have a certain feeling for the Clippers, just because they were from Buffalo, and like that's kind of cool. Like we have that connection. But I didn't grow up with basketball, and so I never developed a connection to the NBA. Is it fun to watch? Sometimes. Sometimes it's really boring. Sometimes it's murder to watch, but sometimes it is fun to watch. But if we were to get a pro NBA team, I would learn to love basketball. Just like if we were to get an MILS team, a major indoor league soccer team, I would probably become a fan of that team as well. I know a lot of people don't care about the soccer. I like the soccer. Mm-hmm. You know, I started following Arsenal last year, and
so were you a Blizzard fan when we had the Blizzard?
No, I really wasn't. But at the time, not that I'm super into soccer. At the time, I just didn't care. Gotcha. You know what I mean? And I know that there is a Buffalo Football Club, but they're like a minor league team, similar to what the Niagara Falls Americans are. Right. You know. All right, so. What about you? So the Bills and Sabres both moved to Boise. Would you become a Boise fan, or do you have a second team?
So for me, I think...
And I know hockey's not your thing.
Yeah, so the Sabres I really could care less about. So I don't, like, you know, if they went, they went.
Right.
Buffalo would be harder with the Bills.
Yeah,
it would be harder. I would, you know what? I would give them a try.
Okay. I mean, I'd probably buy a hat. I do like hats. I'd probably buy a hat.
I don't know if I would say I would be a fan.
Gotcha.
I would give it a try, see how it was.
How weird would Sundays be? Seriously,
It would be awkward. It would be awkward because
I would almost not want to watch football for a couple years. It would feel like,
and that's what I'm saying. Like I would give that first year a try,
right,
to see how like I would feel with it.
It would be like the worst breakup of your life,
and especially
I've had some bad breakups.
And for me though, I could just imagine though, like if that did happen, and especially if we were in a little losing drought,
right,
and then all of a sudden they move, this new owner or whatever does whatever they could to make the team and win. Now it's like heartbreaking.
What if they move to Toronto? It's just outside our market. I mean, it's a couple hour drive.
I wouldn't go to any game.
No.
No.
Right.
Because to me it's like, because now you got to deal with all that traffic, everything like that. If you what would be their tailgating rules or whatever like that. So, and that's the thing too. Like if I'm going to go, I'm going to want to tailgate.
Sure. All right. So backing up, and we're running out of time very, very quickly. Do you have a second team?
I don't really.
No.
No. But if there's a player that I like on a team, I'll root for that team.
All right.
But I don't really have a second team, except for I despise the Patriots and the Cowboys.
All right. Fair enough. Unfortunately, Drew, we're out of time. But that's okay.
Oh.
We got to play a couple songs. Well, we don't have to play a couple songs, but we're going to play a couple songs to close things out. We've got High on You by Kevin McCarthy, another one from the Vault, and Freedom by the Molise, which is only a couple years old, newer than most of the other stuff that I played today. You've been listening to Here's the Thing. I'm Scott Leffler. He's Drew McGrath. This is All West New York Radio. We'll see you next week.